President Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, the outgoing Congresswoman from Georgia, making headlines this morning after appearing on 60 Minutes. She dishes on how Republicans view President Trump behind closed doors as opposed to in front of the camera. Plus, the fate of your health care. What exactly are Republicans planning? Will they reform or get rid of Obamacare? The Kennedy Center honors. How is the left reacting after the rock band Kiss, actor Sylvester Stallone, and others get honored by President Trump on its hallowed stage? Has anyone actually done a health check on George Clooney and his band of liberals?
Welcome to American Sunrise.
President Trump reportedly weighing whether to move on from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. There are reports out this morning saying that top White House officials are growing frustrated with her. One report notes that the president could be looking at possibly the term-limited Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin to replace her. Meantime, Secretary Noem is also the subject of a contempt of court inquiry for continuing deportations to El Salvador, despite a federal judge's order to basically turn that around.
Karen Levitt said just this past week that this report was basically trash. It was not true. Kristi Noem has said it's not true. And then, of course, there's other angles of this story saying that Corey Lewandowski was involved with her in some type of, micromanaging what she's doing. Look, at the end of the day, both Corey Lewandowski and Kristi Noem are doing a phenomenal job with our border, cleaning up our streets and getting the troublemakers off our communities out of here. I think this is driven from perhaps the far left media trying to once again break up the Trump administration, make sure there's a fallout. I'll be traveling with President Trump tomorrow to Pennsylvania to talk about the economy. Yes, sir. And so I think his message on affordability and make sure, he can kind of stay in touch with people that are struggling. He's getting the messaging on that. And so I'm happy to be with him tomorrow.
Brian Glenn, great to see you in person.
Great to see you.
I knew you existed, but now I have confirmation.
And you don't wear any makeup. I've always been told in the air that you wear a ton of makeup. I don't see any on you.
No, well, take a look at the neck.
Yeah, I need some Botox to the forehead. Other than that, I'll make up for you.
Republicans divided over whether to salvage Obamacare or replace it ahead of the subsidy deadline.
The speaker indicated that early this week we're going to see something that we're going to be able to really get the conversation going in a strong way. I think when you think about the subsidies, you've got to remember those subsidies were a COVID era. They were pandemic subsidies. No Republican has ever voted for us to continue or think about those subsidies. 60.5% of the American people felt like those subsidies of the COVID era policy needed to end. When it's something that has to be propped up by government money over and over and over again, you've got something that is not going to work. It's going to cost the American people $400 billion over the next 10 years. We've got to quit sending the money to the insurance companies who are continuing to get wealthy off of these COVID-era policies.
Tell us about this MAHA healthcare plan.
We can make this so much more simple and give choice back to consumers or patients, and really which will drive down costs, increase competition, and also make the cost transparent. Trump has been truthing about, which is let's give the money to the people and let them pick the insurance plan that they want. I don't think you have to repeal it. I think if you give people a better alternative than the Obamacare plans, Obamacare will wither on the vine. If you like your crappy Obamacare plan, you can keep it. And we're going to give you something that does much more than a health savings account. Why not let people use a purse or a small amount of this supercharged health savings account to purchase groceries that are healthy, like unprocessed protein and produce, vitamins, maybe a gym membership. We want people to get healthy, not just insured.
You don't actually have to do a full repeal of Obamacare. They can naturally deport, if you will, kind of like immigration.
You've done so much for American greatness. Talk to the next generation about how important the values are that you're celebrating tonight are to American greatness. Things like self-discipline, creativity, talent, those things.
Well, the young generation, I think, is going to grow up strong. Young people are respecting us again, too. I won the young vote. The Republicans never win the young vote. I want to thank Charlie, and I want to thank TikTok, and there are a lot of reasons for it. There's never been a Republican who won the young vote, and I won the very young vote. So that's a good sign.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
ICE cannot enter into private spaces like your home, school, or a private area of your workplace without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. That looks like this. If ICE does not have a judicial warrant signed by a judge, you have the right to say, I do not consent to entry, and the right to keep your door closed. Sometimes ICE will show you paperwork that looks like this and tell you that they have the right to arrest you. That is false. ICE is legally allowed to lie to you, but you have the right to remain silent. If you're being detained, you may always ask, am I free to go, repeatedly until they answer you. You are legally allowed to film ICE as long as you do not interfere with an arrest. It is important to remain calm during any interaction with ICE or law enforcement. Do not impede their investigation, resist arrest, or run.
When I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people in Germany. Ethnically Somali, we are in this country as Americans. Yeah. We are citizens, we are productive part of this nation, and we will continue to be.
The initial fraud that was discovered by the IRS, for which I'm the acting commissioner, is discovered by IRS Criminal Investigations Unit. This was not an endogenous thing that the state of Minnesota decided we had to go in and clean up the mess for them, and this is part of the continued cleanup. A lot of money has been transferred from the individuals who committed this fraud, including those who donated to the governor, donated to Representative Omar, and donated to A.G. Ellison, but they've been transferred to something called MBSs. These are money the Bureau services, and they are wire transfer organizations that are outside the regulated banking system, and that money has gone overseas. And we are tracking that both to the Middle East and to Somalia to see what the uses of that have been.
Mr. Homan, the president said very clearly this week that he doesn't want Somali immigrants in America. He called them garbage.
No, I think President Trump's referring to public safety threats as national security threats from Somalia and every other country.
Well, he didn't say that. He said
he's been clear from day one.
He talked about the whole community.
Those that came into a vetting process that weren't properly vetted, they don't have the database and information to ensure they're properly vetted, that we're going to relook at those cases and make sure they're properly vetted.
Representative Omar tried to downplay it, said it was very tough to know how this money should be used. Yeah. You know, she was gaslighting the American people.
Well, we'll talk to her.
Yeah, but when you come to this country, you got to learn which side of the road to drive on. You got to learn to stop at stop signs, and you got to learn not to defraud the American people.
The entire world is a bunch of deadbeats, and the American taxpayer has been funding these people. You have Western Europe with NATO, and we're funding proxy wars. You have Africa with USAID and all the government backing. Then you have places like China, where we're offshoring all the manufacturing, and that's been brutal for the American workers. And then you have places like India with combined offshoring and remittances is taking up $150 billion roughly annually over economic value. But then you have all of the people that we imported from India who are taking up even more. If you promise the American dream, and if that got you a 60% approval rating with under 40 voters, and this is the biggest thing affecting them, then as the leader of the free world, you have to understand that and cut these deadbeats off, because it is 100% a scam. You make a really great product, you got all your customers hooked, and then over time, the business interests, the MBA, say, well, you know what, we got to squeeze another dollar out of that. And so you make the product a little bit worse. You cut corners, you don't do as much QA. Well, what we have now is cultural and shitification, because basically we've taken sort of third world engineers who, quite frankly, I've seen statistics. There's a company that actually measures how much people lie on their coding interviews, and believe it or not, guess which one the highest, mode response cheaters are from? It's definitely India. And they come over here, they get a rubber stamp process, they come right on in through pipelines that have been built hand in hand with the government, corporate America, and big college. Big college feeds off of these people because they use, they have these MBA mills. And they take these amazing jobs, and what blows my mind is that if you look still at a Trump administration, you can tell. Look at Fox, that's great. Like Will Cain, Laura Ingraham, those are the only two names I've seen who are actually even willing to broach this topic. And I think Trump's probably surrounded by a bunch of people who are giving him billionaire talking points about how they have to defend it, but 99% of it is fraud. For every single H-1B, senior developer at Apple that we send back, that's the equivalent economically probably of deporting 10 illegal aliens. Silicon Valley's got some of the highest real estate, the highest real estate in the entire country. Well, its workforce is roughly 2/3 foreign born. And where are most of those people coming from? They're India.
Mamdani is, as I called it, he's in a sanctuary city. He's daring the President of the United States. He's daring Kristi Noem and Tom Homan to come in and basically make that part of the United States. And he's sitting there telling the illegal alien invaders, who are essentially that in the legal migrants we brought in under these scams. That's what voted for him. He's saying, hey, I got your back, and Trump's not going to do anything. If Kristi Noem comes here, I'm going to throw her out, and if Tom Homan comes here, I'm going to arrest him. He's being as brazen as possible because that's their voting base.
The Charlie Kirk Show starts now.
The President of the United States and his Secretary of Defense are conducting murder on the high seas. They're committing murder, and Americans should care. Like, look, none of us like drug traffickers, but we have laws that say that drug traffickers don't get summarily executed. And if it's happening off the coast of America with people that we don't know, just give it time before Donald Trump starts doing this same kind of thing to people we do know.
All of us need to wake up every morning, look in the mirror and say, what are we doing? What am I doing specifically today to make this country a better country, to make all of our immigrants feel more welcome?
To define for our audience what you say woke is.
The woke brigade are the least tolerant, least inclusive, and least kind people.
But that is a mass generalisation, isn't it?
No, it's not actually. No, my whole premise of my book is I'm a liberal. I have nothing in common with the way the woke left has behaved in the last few years. The great irony is they became the very kind of fascists that they profess to hate most. They became the scolders, the shamers, the cancellers. In some extreme cases, as with the murder of Charlie Kirk, the murderers of people for their speech. That's not liberalism.
There's over 62,000 children found by the Trump administration. Children that weren't even being looked for under the Biden administration. President Trump saved over 62,000 children's lives. Some of these children in sex trafficking we found. Some were in forced labor. Some were being mistreated. I can't even discuss some of the mistreatment we found out about.
Today, we are here for one of the most beloved traditions of the holiday season, Toys for Tots, led by United States Marine Corps Reserve. For more than 75 years, Marines and volunteers across America collect and deliver new toys to children who need a little extra joy during Christmas, all wrapped with love and great care. You help bring the delight of Christmas morning to millions of children, and you remind us all that American tradition, kindness, and love remain among our most powerful. To the families of military personnel, you are the heart of today's celebration.
The 14th Amendment was intended to grant citizenship to freed slaves born in America and their children, not to illegals who owe allegiance and are citizens of a foreign country. And here's the key quote, Blake. This is the one that everybody's going to be talking about and arguing around in this Supreme Court oral argument. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. American Indians did not receive citizenship until 1924 with the passage of the Indian Citizenship Act. Now, you have to ask yourself why. Why did they not receive citizenship? They were born on American soil, presumably. But this is the key. They were considered to owe allegiance to native sovereignty, to their own tribal nations, and they were not automatically considered to owe allegiance to the United States. And therefore, it took an extra step passed by Congress in 1924, the Indian Citizenship Act.
They'd be allowed to buy Warner Brothers? Should Netflix? Well, that's the question. They have a very big market share. And when they have Warner Brothers, that share goes up a lot. So I don't know. That's going to be for some economists to tell. And I'll be involved in that decision, too.
President Trump knows that the administration has huge regulatory authority here. This is something where now, obviously, the obvious antitrust problem is if Netflix buys HBO Max, right? So these are two of the biggest streamers, and one of the biggest streamers buys the other streamer. It would be like Coke buying Pepsi. And so you would have this would create a monopoly problem. And Netflix is trying to explain this away. They're saying, no, you should consider us against all content out there. I mean, look at TikTok, look at, Rumble. They're trying to say that Netflix is comparable to that. And it's just obviously not true. He comes out this morning popping Paramount saying like, hey guys, no free ride for you either, because I'm going to be watching you guys like a hawk. Because I have to look at the timing, but I'm sure that he probably heard that Paramount's hostile deal was coming in, and it also just broke that there was a secret meeting where the head of Netflix actually went over to the White House, and they did have a meeting and sat down in the Oval Office. That had never been reported. The White House didn't put that out because he was trying to make sure there were no regulatory hurdles. Now President Trump coming in saying, you know what, just because you guys want to come in, I know you got my son-in-law on board, but guess what? If you want there to be no issues with you, I want to see a little bit more fairness when it comes to CBS, when it comes to 60 Minutes, all of this. So, I mean, the ball's really in President Trump's court on a lot of this.
These cultural, seeds for either wokeness or a return to common sense that are planted at this level with these long-form shows that have become so popular. What kind of ideologies are getting spread and implanted in the narratives, and then they filter out into our politics. This kind of stuff, I would argue, is more important than about 98% of the other things we can talk about. I think this is Charlie's potentially the most powerful personal book, because a lot of the, it was MAGA doctrine, it was the college scam, it was right-wing revolution. These were sort of heady books about policy topics or ideological topics. This is a very personal book. It's very different in that way. And, it's terribly tragic that this is the last book we have from Charlie, but in some ways, now that we know that that's the case, it's really apropos. And it's, I think it comes out this week.
This is the most just purely personal, and it's his most spiritual book. It's his first directly religious book, and I think that meant a lot to him as well. It was his chance to really dive into the Bible, dive into the history of the Jewish and Christian faiths, and really explore that. So it's not just that the message was very personal for him, it's also that the process of writing it was a very personal, spiritual, enjoyable endeavor for him. I think it was his refuge from a lot of annoying things that were, of course, going on in the past year.
This is Human Events with your host, Jack Posobiec.
Christ is king.
Google is releasing its list of top search trends of 2025.
2025's top search trend in the U.S. was Charlie Kirk.
We're seeing the chilling moments after Luigi Mangione allegedly shot and killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a New York City hotel. You can see the shooter walk toward the victim, appearing to briefly glance down as he lay dying on the sidewalk before turning to cross the street, then starting to run, disappearing down an alley. This week, new evidence is being revealed in court as accused killer Luigi Mangione sits and watches.
After a shooting, gunshots fired there at the home of Tim Pool, who, of course, is known as a big political commentator with millions upon millions of fans on different social media platforms.
Meanwhile, two new polls show a notable number of young Americans accept some form of political violence, a shift from generations before them. 30% of 18 to 29-year-olds say political violence is sometimes okay.
The Supreme Court says it will hear an expedited appeal of President Trump's attempt to end birthright citizenship by executive order. The court did not explain its decision, and the case will likely be heard next spring. For more than 100 years, courts, interpreted the Constitution to give U.S. citizenship to anyone born on American soil, regardless of the legal status of the parents. Now, that may hang in the balance.
To be giving and providing it to the farmers in economic assistance, and we love our farmers, and as you know, the farmers like me, because based on voting trends, you could call it voting trends or anything else, but they're great people. They're the backbone of our country. So we're going to use that money to provide $12 billion in economic assistance to American farmers. Certainty to farmers as they get this year's harvest to market and look ahead to next year's crops. And it'll help them continue their efforts to lower food prices, for American families.
Today, we are going to be effectuating an $11 billion bridge payment to our farmers. The money will move by February 28th of 2026, but by the end of this month, so just in the next couple of weeks, every farmer that is able to apply for it will know exactly what that number looks like. So as you are going to your lender, as you are working to ensure and understanding what you can plant for next year, you will have that number in hand.
$12 billion.
Well, we're holding $1 billion back. So today we are announcing $11 billion. We are holding $1 billion back just to ensure that we are covering. So today's announcement covers all of our row crops, but some specialty crops and others that we are still working with to best understand where they are in the farm economy and ensure that we're making every forward-moving position that we need to.
China committed to over $40 billion of soybean purchases, and that's a commitment. And I asked President Xi if he could even up it. And I think he'll do that. I mean, not a commitment. The $40 billion is a commitment, but the soybean farmers are quite happy. Soybeans are being exported out of the United States to China as we speak. And I say that our soybeans, I told this to President Xi, our soybeans are more nutritious than competitors. Japan agreed to $8 billion in purchases of corn, soybeans, ethanol, fertilizer, aviation, biofuel, and rice.
They're telling the American farmer what they can and can't do on their own land through this European Union deforestation regulation. They are telling the American farmer that if their timber is cut and they are going to use that land for pasture land or for production agriculture, that they will not take the timber or the byproducts from the sale of that timber. We need to make it clear to Europe, Mr. President.
If you can give me a 2-paragraph statement on that, I will give that to them, and they will do what they have to do to get that changed fast, okay?
A country that can't feed itself doesn't know what freedom is. And so thank you for making sure that our farmers have the tools that they need.
President Trump scored a massive victory for America's farmers when he secured an arrangement with President Xi in Busan to reopen China's markets to U.S. agricultural exports, especially soybeans, sorghum, and other commodities. Under this framework, China committed to purchase at least 12 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans this growing season, followed by a minimum of 25 million tons annually for the next 3 years. Treasury, USTR, and the Department of Commerce have secured supplemental purchases of U.S. agricultural goods and major trade agreements across the world to open new markets to America's farmers. The One Big Beautiful Bill also delivered transformative benefits for America's small farmers. It locked in full expensing for farm equipment and 100% expensing for farm structures built during the president's term. It extended and enhanced much-needed relief from the punishing death tax, giving family farms greater certainty as they plan for the next generation.
America's Voice Live starts now.
From me, I want to say thank you for this bridge payment. It's Christmas early for farmers. I've got a 2-year-old little boy at home, a 4-month-old little girl. And the other day I was reading my little boy a story at night, putting him to bed, and he said, "Daddy, I don't want Santa Claus to come to our house for Christmas. I want President Trump." and I think, Mr. Trump, I think you brought Christmas to farmers. With this bridge payment, we'll be able to farm another year, help us get by. It's such an honor to be here with you. You have a backbone to stand up to other countries for trade. You're getting things done. Tax provisions. I'll be able to potentially pass on a farm to my children because of you. Ethanol. You're working for ethanol. Trying to get E15 year-round. If we keep that E15, you could have the biggest...
E15 is a big deal?
E15 is a great deal. Year-round.
Okay.
You could have the biggest stamp. I did that. Trump did that, and we would thank you. Farmers would love you more than anything if we could continue that. That will take this home for many generations to come, and because of what you're doing, hopefully them generations can stay on the whole of land farm.
Whatever Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
He now says it's under review. Are you ordering the secretary to release that full video?
Whatever he decides is okay with me. So every boat we knock out of the water, every boat, we save 25,000 American lives. That was a boat loaded up with drugs. I saw the video. They were trying to turn the boat back to where it could float. And we didn't want to see that because that boat was loaded up with drugs just like everything else. But every boat we shoot down, and I don't know if you know, we're 92 or 94% down in drugs coming in by the sea. And we're trying to find who are the 6%. Because I don't know, people aren't liking to drive boats right now loaded up with drugs.
Are you committed to releasing the full video?
Didn't I just tell you that?
You said that it was
You're
up
the
to
most
Secretary.
obnoxious reporter in the whole place. Let me just tell you, you are an obnoxious, a terrible reporter. And it's always the same thing with you. I told you, whatever Pete Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
At least 20 House Republicans who have either said they're going to retire or not run again. Do you have any concerns about the number?
And Democrats
Right.
also.
Do you have
Well,
any
why don't you mention them? How many Democrats are going to retire? How many Democrats?
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
I know, but why don't you tell me the number of Democrats, too? You tell me
Are you
about...
concerned about the narrow margins? And
No, I'm not concerned. I think we're going to do well.
Among them, and
We will have the greatest economy.
Blakeman, who you know as well, is considering running for
We're going to have the
governor.
greatest economy in history. How many Democrats are retiring? How come you only know the Republicans but not the
Because
Democrats?
I came prepared to ask you a question about...
No, you're
the head of-
unprepared because you should know the Democrats. You're totally unprepared. Go ahead.
Well, can I ask a quick follow-up
Who you with?
about...
Who you with?
I'm with New York Newsday, and I also have a quick follow-up. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is among those who is running for
She's
New York
great.
governor.
She's great.
Bruce Blakeman, who you also know...
He's
now
also
connect-
great.
Are you planning on making any
Well, I'll
endorsements
think
or
about
have
it,
any
but
choices?
he's great and she's great. They're both great people. We have a lot of great people with the Republican.
Alina Habba says she's stepping down as U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey after the courts disqualified her.
She's not disqualified. You've got a blue slip thing that's horrible. It's a horrible thing. It makes it impossible to appoint a judge or a U.S. attorney, and it's a shame. And the Republicans should be ashamed of themselves that they allow this to go on, because I can't appoint a U.S. attorney that's not a Democrat, because they put a block on it. So if you appoint in Virginia or in New Jersey or in California a U.S. attorney or a judge, I mean, a judge situation is ridiculous. The only people that you can get by are Democrats because they will put a hold on it. If I put up George Washington and Abraham Lincoln to be U.S. attorney in New Jersey or to be U.S. attorney in Virginia, we have Democrat senators, they will not approve them. And this is a gentleman's agreement that's lasted for too long, and it doesn't make it, especially in light of what's going on today. It means you can't appoint a Republican U.S. attorney, and we don't play the same game with them, but they do. And I hope that somebody speaks to Senator Grassley about doing something about the blue slip, because I'm telling you, John, I put up great people, top people, highest education, the best lawyers to be like U.S. attorney, and both senators. It only takes one. But if they're Democrat senators, they say we're not going to approve it. I had a couple of them say, why don't you appoint Democrats? All because Senator Grassley, with his blue slip stuff, will not let anybody go by. By the way, the Democrats have violated the blue slip provision on numerous occasions, but we don't do it. And what it means is, I guess I just have to keep appointing people for 3 months and then just appoint another one. And it's a very sad situation. We're losing a lot of great people.